Rad, I'm pulling you off this investigation and putting you on the ingestigation of my balls in your mouth.
11 extremely underrated adult and dark cartoons explored. Cartoons and animated series have generally targeted a young demographic, mainly kids. However, animation is an art form which is a lot more versatile than live action. It only makes sense for a wide number of adults to be also interested in animated series that delightfully dance around dark and mature themes such as violence, drug usage, sex, and have the characters cussing. Anything that can hold our attention spellbound is welcome. Adult animated television series have existed since the 1970s, but the 90s really saw the genre skyrocket with the success of The Simpsons and Beavis and Butthead. Naturally, writers have created many such shows that poke fun at mundane life and satirize pop culture in uncharacteristic settings. With other successful shows such as BoJack Horseman, South Park, Family Guy, and Rick and Morty joining the arsenal, it is clear that mature cartoons can not only just grab the adult demographic. It is exciting to see shows with unique artwork and character design that can break the boundaries of live action due to its nature. And so, in this video, we will talk about 11 such animated series that cater to a more mature audience.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Metalocalypse. Starting off with a bang, we have Metalocalypse, a series created by Tommy Blacha and Brendan Small. The story revolves around a death metal band called Dethklok, except their popularity in their universe is over 1,000 times more than the Beatles in the 60s. Really, the band itself became the world's 7th largest economy. Every time the band markets a product, the competitors are driven out of business. The band has its own police force. Governments from all over the world try their level best not to hinder the band. The band members can commit literally any crime and get away with it. In fact, they are so stupid and dense that they will probably not even realize that their acts are illegal. Their fanbase is rabid, 1,000,000 times more rabid than Taylor Swift's fanbase on Twitter during a star Twitter feud with Kanye West. They usually are ready to die for the band. The band is literally bringing an apocalypse via death metal. This destructive popularity garners the attention from a group known as the Tribunal, which is similar to the Illuminati in the Metalocalypse world. It monitors Dethklok's activities, and it tries to maintain the status quo whenever any antic by Dethklok comes into play. The leader of the Tribunal, Mr. Salacia, learns of a prophecy that talks about how the band was able to be this ridiculously popular. The association tries to thwart the band and disband them by calling in psychotropic drug manufacturers, celebrity depression experts, and other questionable people to infiltrate the group. One of the Tribunal members, the military leader named General Crozier, even yearns for the death of the band members. With drugs, death, lots of violence, and hyperbolic black humor being brought into play, Metalocalypse is a perfect match for the Adult Swim. It also brings up many other mature themes such as the drawbacks of fame, as it makes a parody of heavy metal culture while celebrating it. The show also revels in profanity, but what's cool is that being a show about a death metal band, the curse words are beeped out with pinch harmonics instead of a regular beep sound.
Guy. Hey, Lamont. So vote for me for president, won't you? I know he would. Right?
Frisky Dingo. Next up, we have this adult animated cartoon created by Matt Thompson and Adam Reed for Adult Swim. It is centered around a superhero named Awesome X, who was also a billionaire called Xander Cruz, and a supervillain named Killface. The two are involved in a conflict between one another as the show makes fun of the cliches from action and superhero movies. Killface has a dream. He wants to blast Earth into the sun, but in superhero movies the villain cockily announces their destructive plan to the world. Killface wants to do the same. He also wants to show off the Annihilatrix, a device that will bring their doom. However, he does not have the fortune or the technology to carry out his plans. On the opposite end, inspired by Batman, we have Xander Cruz, a billionaire playboy superhero, or Awesome X, who is being forced to settle down by his advisor. Being a goofy guy who is interested in being a superhero and does not pay heed to his family business, he has run the business to the ground. He has also defeated every villain in town, which prompts his advisor to ask him to focus on the business instead. But then Killface, a man who needs $12 billion for the execution of his plans, comes into play for this billionaire hero. Their relationship changes throughout the course of the show, as Killface and Awesome X go from being enemies to allies, albeit unwillingly on several occasions. They are also voiced by the same actor, Adam Reed. During a particular arc, Killface and Xander ran against each other to be the president. As an adult animated series, its dialogues revel in obscenity from time to time, making the show unsuitable for children. The humor can be quite crude, but it all works well together, giving the show both critical acclaim and love from the masses.
Hires me. For her, I can be a hero.
The Maxx. This show is based on an American comic book series of the same name by Sam Keith. The titular hero, Maxx, experiences an adventure in two different worlds, the real world and an alternate reality known as the Outback. He is two different people in different realities. In the main reality, he is a vagrant and a homeless man who lives in a box, whereas in Outback, he is a powerful guy who protects the Jungle Queen, a woman who also exists in the real world under the name Julie Winters. She is a social worker who has bailed a homeless Maxx out of jail on several occasions. However, unlike Maxx, Julie is unaware of the existence of Outback, but the story explores it all. Julie is also shown to have had terrible experiences throughout college, where she has been sexually assaulted and left to die. To deal with the trauma, she escapes to the Outback to use it as a coping mechanism, similar to how people daydream and use other escapist methods to deal with a depressing life. However, this place only exists in the subconscious, and here, she becomes the Jungle Queen. As she spends more and more time in this world, she becomes unstable in reality. After accidentally hitting a homeless man with her car, she unintentionally links him to her Outback. A serial rapist named Mr. Gone has a telepathic link to Julie. He has access to people's Outbacks. When he constantly phones Julie, she shrugs him off as an obscene phone caller. The homeless man who Julie had come into contact with is now called Maxx. He comes into play as he gets in Gone's way to protect Julie from him in both worlds. The story dives into Julie's backstory as she begins to heal herself and her Outback. Other characters such as Sarah are introduced, who had quite an uneventful life. The series glosses over several mature themes that are unfit for a younger audience. Sexual harassment and depression are brought under the light in the existence of the Outback itself. It is a dark thing to think about, a place where people are able to escape from monotony, to cope with their real-life trauma. Korgoth of Barbaria. The legendary Aaron Springer needs little introduction. He has worked as a storyboard artist for some of the most renowned animated shows, such as Samurai Jack, SpongeBob SquarePants, and Dexter's Laboratory. He is the one responsible for creating Korgoth of Barbaria. The story is set in a post-apocalyptic or dystopian world. Here, remnants of technology exist alongside sorcery. Korgoth, who is the main character, catches an infection from a lethal parasite called Gog Magog. He has to steal an item called the Golden Goblin of the Fourth Age from a sorcerer known as Specules. Korgoth goes to his castle with his henchmen while killing people along the way. When they reach the castle, they plunder it. Korgoth tries to get his hands on the Golden Goblin when Specules returns to his castle. Korgoth had assumed that he was dead, but the sorcerer was just on vacation. Korgoth and his men are attacked, but he proves himself to be more or less immune to the wizard's attacks. Several things play out as the two fight, and it is evident that the character is a parody of Conan the Barbarian. However, this is just a pilot episode that was planned for a longer television series. Cartoons try to stay away from showing severe ruthlessness, blood, and often will alter its dialogue to prevent the characters from using the word kill, which is something we see Azula do a lot throughout Avatar: The Last Airbender. Korgoth is a barbaric man of merciless savagery who gets his affinity for violence from his Viking heritage. The cartoon does not shy away from showing Korgoth in his full glory as a violent main character, making it an ideal addition to the list. Similar to several other entries on this list, Korgoth of Barbaria was aired on Adult Swim.
See you in hell, mortal scum.
Ugly Americans. This adult animated sitcom was created by Devin Clark. Ugly Americans revolves around the life of a social worker called Mark Lilly, who works at the Department of Integration. However, it takes place in an alternate universe where New York City is inhabited by magical creatures and monsters. Mark Lilly comes off as an upbeat guy who relocates to Manhattan, a place where humans coexist with beasts and demons. He finds employment in the United States Department of Homeland Security as he works in integration as a social worker. His job is to help the non-human population become a part of the city and mingle with the humans. His roommate is a hypersexual zombie. His girlfriend is a succubus, who is also the daughter of Satan and wants to bring the end of days. In his experience, Mark tries to keep being the upbeat guy he is, while staying politically correct as he works with his bizarre companions. This show is full of obscenities, as Mark maneuvers life with the rest of the freak show of a cast. Their adventures are bizarre, and often do not make sense. As an adult cartoon, the show does not shy away from vulgar dialogues or sexual innuendos and connotations. It even has sexual scenes, and the first season is notorious for its vulgar nature.
Dazzle Novak, Moonbeam City Police. I hope your brain's hungry.
Moonbeam City. Created by Scott Gardner, Moonbeam City is an adult animated series. It is characterized by its futuristic animated visuals, which take inspiration from the 80s with its heavy neon lighting. A synthwave soundtrack adds a cherry on top. The story revolves around an undercover detective called Dazzle Novak. For lack of a better word, it is safe to say that he is an idiot. He patrols the city and locks criminals up. However, he commits more crimes than the criminals. His chief, Pizzazz Miller, is a glamorous and seductive woman who overlooks the work of the handsome detective. Meanwhile, Rad Cunningham is a rookie detective who considers Dazzle to be his rival. He is also waiting for Dazzle to fail. With these situations working against the idiotic detective, he has to get involved in doing some real work. The show glosses over various adult and dark themes. Violence is a norm here, with its several shootout sequences, scenes where a character's head is shown to be stabbed. There is a hefty amount of gore, and dead bodies are shown and joked about. Sex also plays a huge role via the visuals. Dazzle himself is a womanizer who sleeps with several women. Strip clubs are animated with lap dancing sequences. Of course, their dialogue contains solid amounts of profanity. Some are aired while others are beeped. There's references to hard drugs as well. Basically, anything and everything that can make a show R-rated is present in this cartoon.
Dr. Quest's arch enemy, and any enemy of Dr. Quest is an enemy of mine because I owe Dr. Quest very much.
Drink your juice box.
Harvey Birdman. Adult Swim gets another entry with Harvey Birdman, attorney at law. It was created by Eric Richter and Michael Oweline and revolves around activities involving the Sebin & Sebin law firm. It is a firm with a predominantly superhero staff. Ex-superhero Harvey Birdman from Birdman and the Galaxy Trio works as an attorney here with other cartoon stars from the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. His clients are also the characters from the 1960s and 1970s era of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Harvey acts as both a defense attorney and civil litigator depending on what the plot calls for, while he goes against rival attorneys from his former cartoon series. The show is dependent on a lot of pop culture references as it takes from many classic animated series from the past. The show also parodies those series with a surrealistic comedic style. The superheroes and supervillains are given eccentric qualities, with a notable one being turning a scientist paranoid. Shaggy and Scooby-Doo are shown to take drugs for recreation. His legal secretary and former sidekick Avenger, who is a large eagle, keeps the bodies of dead dogs for entertainment and playtime, adding a layer of horror to this already mature cartoon. The show brings out its corrupt presidency as Birdman tries to take it down, but the spoofy parody that is employed makes it an ideal watch for teens who can get the humor instead of kids.
You are not your father.
I'm getting real sick of hearing that.
The Awesomes. Seth Meyers and Mike Shoemaker created The Awesomes as a parody for the Avengers, the Justice League, and the X-Men. A group of superheroes come to the scene and replace an existing superhero team, causing them to disband. However, this new group, aka the Awesomes, must deal with severe scrutiny from the media and the government's skepticism. Mr. Awesome decides to retire as the leader of the association. His son Proc, who is not a superhero, fills the now empty seats in the superhero association with candidates who had previously been rejected. The Awesomes are not awesome anymore, thanks to their lack of ability and excessive incompetence. But there is no rest for the wicked, as Diabolical presents a threat to them. The Awesomes have to handle that threat despite being mediocre at best. On top of that, the paparazzi and their reputation as second-class heroes only makes matters worse for them. With more and more superheroes taking over the modern-day movie rosters, there's room for more spoofs and more parodies. The creator of the story, being SNL's head writer Seth Meyers, only makes the show even funnier and better. The characters are interesting. Proc's mild-mannered behavior and social position as the worst superhero in the world makes him an interesting main character. Several characters have also been voiced by SNL writers, with writer Paul Appel voicing a sexy old woman, which should be enough of a giveaway for the show's mature nature. Sexual innuendos and strong language are ever present. as the male characters obscenely check out women and talk about it in an aggressive, suggestive manner. Much of the humor might not appeal or make sense to a younger crowd anyway.
Oh, that's it!
Oh my God!
Holy Jesus, he's a robot!
That's
Sealab 2021. After Frisky Dingo, writer Adam Reed gets another entry on this list with Sealab 2021, which he created alongside Matt Thompson for Adult Swim. The show is a satire, as it parodies the Sealab 2020 series from the 1970s. Naturally, the series takes place at Sealab, which is an underwater research base which is home to almost 250 people. The Sealab was commanded by Captain Michael Murphy, and all the people on deck were dedicated to exploring the seas and protecting marine life. During this, the Sealab and the crew had to face several challenges, such as shark attacks, environmental disasters, and giant squids. However, in the spoof, the crew does barely any work. They've all gone off the deep, especially Captain Murphy. During every episode, there is a blow-up sequence or someone from the crew dies. However, the show is so episodic that it maintains zero continuity as a result. The next episode opens with everything intact. During an episode called The Policy, we learn about Captain Murphy drowning in his credit card bill. To pay it off, he forces the crew members to search for treasure. There's a lot of sex, blurred nudity, drug abuse, and of course violence, that helps the show stay true to its nature as a series under Adult Swim's arsenal. What makes it really funny is how the themes of the episode have absolutely no connection to the underwater research stations. A dying orphan who comes to Sealab after being sent by the Final Wish Foundation turns out to be a fraud who was wanted by Interpol. Why is he wanted by Interpol? Because he wants to flee Sealab of his millions. This theme itself takes the cake for being so ridiculous that it's funny.
Grown at all? You were thinking it.
I know.
Clone High. Clone High, or Clone High USA, is an adult cartoon series created by Bill Lawrence, Christopher Miller, and Phil Lord. It is set in a high school where the students are clones of renowned historical figures. The world's greatest minds have been cloned. They have been enrolled into the same high school, but how did they come to be? Well, the government had a secret plan: to dig up historical figures and to clone them. The plan is a success, and Clone High gets the craziest lead cast one can think of, with Abraham Lincoln, Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, Mahatma Gandhi, and John F. Kennedy being linked to each other. Lincoln is a nice guy, but he has lustful feelings towards an extremely sexy Cleopatra. However, Lincoln loses out to the high school hottie JFK, who just happens to be Cleopatra's boyfriend, because why not? Abraham Lincoln is also best friends with the party animal Gandhi and the angsty goth girl who was in love with him, Joan of Arc. They are all different from their historical counterparts because they could not live up to the legacy. Gandhi actually became a party animal as he cracked under pressure from trying to live up to the original Gandhi. The show deals with problems that can be faced by teenagers in high school, such as sleep deprivation, your crush liking someone else over you, catching ADD from toilet seats because it is totally not genetic, and the likes. If Abe Lincoln gets to marry Cleopatra, he should totally call her his Babe Lincoln. The cast for the minor characters makes the weirdest historical cocktail: Julius Caesar, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne Brant with Napoleon Bonaparte. The humor aside, the high school has a drug dealer who sells the hardest drug of all time: raisins. It's the same as claiming that you're a raging metalhead and then claiming Bring Me the Horizon to be your favorite metal band. Okay, maybe not that bad. Cleopatra's mother is an alcoholic. JFK and Cleopatra seem very open to venturing out with their sexuality. There were broken bones and lost teeth, dark comedy, and body horror. Clone High also circles around another lesser ventured into territory for cartoons: the Madonna horror complex. A complex where a man cannot lust over the woman he falls in love with and cannot love the woman he lusts for.
Wow, for the first time in my life, I feel completely calm and
Disenchantment. This satirical fantasy by Matt Groening is the last entry on this list. It is set in Dreamland, a medieval fantasy kingdom. Bean is a rebellious princess. She is also an alcoholic, making her the most ideal main character imaginable. She has a naive elf called Elfo for a companion, and is joined by Lucy, her destructive personal demon. The trio tries to find their purpose while the kingdom of Dreamland crumbles around them. She has a hard life with having to choose between becoming a responsible adult versus living a lavish, leisurely life, because it is a problem no one but Bean has faced. Elfo and Lucy act like the angel and demon that appear on a character's shoulders while they try to make a decision. Lucy is literally a spawn of Satan, and the name isn't some cutesy spelling for Lucy, but it takes inspiration from Lucifer. The trio go on several misadventures. Bean bands up with thieves and does whatever she wants to. Elfo has strange motives, as he is an overly positive guy who leads a good life for a crappy one so that he can appreciate the good life better. He also has a crush on Bean. It is unclear whether she is a good girl or a bad girl, but the black versus white perspective is not very predominant outside the world of children, which makes Bean a regular teenage girl who's just pushing her boundaries. What did you think of these cartoons? Did you enjoy the video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on this video. Till next time, goodbye and have a great one.
Oh, come on. You wouldn't dress that way if you didn't want it.
I'm naked because you burned off my clothes.
I will take what's mine!